Good morning and welcome back to Beef and Barnzy, where we actually got both Beef and Barnzy. Welcome back off to the power grid, Beef. And hasn't been a whole lot exciting going on in your life, but go ahead and update us on what's going on here in Tejas.
Well, I've been Angie Ramirez has been putting us up for a few days, so we're very thankful to her. Sounds like we've got power back on at our house. Our internet isn't working, but everybody else's in the street is. So hopefully that's an easy fix. The day wasn't going great, and then I got attacked by a pit bull yesterday, so that was nice.
Well,
so yeah, that was a good times. If it doesn't rain, it pours. Tina said it was a bit like one of those Final Destination movies where they'd convinced that they killed us off by taking all of our power, and we'd found a way to get around that by finding some friends to put us up. So then they decided that the dog would try and get me. That was our next destination. So yeah, that was fun times. Our biggest fan.
Well, at least mine. So,
Yeah. You try to tell me something?
Yeah.
Well. So, yeah. Do we need someone to throw the balls for us? Yeah, always. Can you always throw my ball, Simo?
Yeah, exactly.
We'll just get crossed together.
Week? Yeah, let's just start next week on that one.
I'll just bowl like game 3 each block. Game 3 is supposed to be, according to the statistics, my best game. Game 2 or game 3, I forget. So I'll just bowl that one game. This is going to be we're live on the Beef and Barnzy channel, and you should be finding us on the Storm, Global, and Rotogrip pages. So if you've come from there, thank you. Hello, welcome to the show. We are going to be doing a bit of a showcase of the products. We've got some videos lined up for you. We're going to be going through the Storm Incite. That's going to be me, and then we've got Chris is going to give us a rundown of the C4, the Ordnance C4, and then we've got a little bit at the end on an old but gold. That's going to be a segment, old but gold. On the UFO. Yeah, I think we're going to start with the Insight. So I've got a video. I'll throw the video up. The first half of the video, you're going to be seeing me throwing it on the dragon pattern, and it's in box finish. And then the second half of the video is some highlights of me bowling with the Insight. I shined it up. I used Storm's Extra Shine. And I used it on a house shot, so you can kind of see the differences, and we'll talk through it kind of after the video. So got a fancy little graphic. So yeah, I mean, when I first drilled it, it's got a let me think this through. It's got a 5 by 3.5 by 4.5 layout. For those who use the dual angle system, it's a I think it's a 50 by 5 by 70. So it's a fairly smooth layout. I use the same layout on my Rubicon. In comparison to the Rubicon, I found that this was a little earlier and probably a little less responsive down lane than the Rubicon was for me. However, once I shined it up, I really felt like the ball became a lot quicker. For me, it was a lot more versatile when I had a little bit of shine on it. And I think that's the main thing with hybrids. This has got the R4S hybrid cover, and I feel like they take surface changes quite a lot better than some of the others and give you a bigger difference in reaction when you use the hybrid with shine or with a dull kind of finish. So, like I say, I felt like once it was shiny, for me, it had more all-round use. that was kind of where I saw it. I feel like it's very much a middle ball. It's going to be for those guys, like I say, it's kind of the same kind of idea technology-wise as the Rubicon. It's quite a symmetrical core, but they've kind of mimicked a symmetrical core with a balance hole in it. So it flares quite a bit for me. And I don't think it's quite as much flare as the Rubicon. The Rubicon was really noticeable for me how much more flare there was. But like I say, I think it's going to be that ball that kind of fits in between, say, a phase 2 and the big balls. And like with layouts, I'm sure that there's quite a few more layout possibilities. For me, when we bowl, I don't necessarily on the big tournament, on the PBA tournaments, have as much of a gap as I can see in league because we put so much more oil on the lane. What are my paps?
Yeah.
Well, my pap is 5 5/8 across by like about an eighth to a quarter up.
So a pin above your bridge is a 5.5 inch pin.
Yeah, maybe a little long, 5 3/4. But yeah, if you head over to our YouTube channel, I'll put the link up there. If you're watching on YouTube, there is a link to the whole game that I bowled on the Dragon, and they'll now right there. There's a link to the 299 that I bowled on the house shot, so you can watch both those. I had a real nice break at the end of that one. So yeah, that's kind of where I see that ball fitting. I think it's very much a step down from, say, the Omega Crux. I would say the Omega Crux for me right now is kind of the bottom of the big ASIM balls. Hey, look, Big Brother's watching.
By bottom, you mean the least hooking?
Yes, like
longest.
It's probably both.
Okay.
I would say it's probably the cleanest of those big balls, as we would term it. If I was doing it in order, I would say that in my mind, the Proton Physics is the strongest ball across the 3 brands, followed by the Reality. The Reality looks like it's maybe a little bit cleaner, I think. The UFO is right in there with those 2 balls, but I would say that the UFO is probably the earliest and the smoothest. And then moving down from there, you've got I'm probably forgetting some, but I would probably put the Omega Crux next, and then you have other balls like the Volatility Torque. Maybe you could see where that one would get off those from what you've seen. I feel like that's probably comparable to the Nuclear Cell in overall strength and where it fits.
Yeah. With surface on, I think it's a pretty big ball. Shiny, it's longer than those balls you talked about already, I think, just watching.
Yeah. Somebody's asking me here, Danny's asking me, does the Insight remind you of any older Storm pieces? Not really, because I feel like, I know that Chris can talk about this with the Rubicon. I just feel like that the Rubicon and the Insight are just such different shapes than almost any of the other balls because of this new idea that they've had with trying to create that, symmetrical ball with a weight hole. And I just feel like they're quite unique shapes. I don't really think, I know that it sounds like it's BS and everything's new and greater. I'm not saying it's necessarily like life-changing. I'm just saying that I don't see that shape out of any of the other balls, especially with the Rubicon. I feel like that shape's really unique.
Yeah, I think it does chain up, I guess, so to speak, in the mid lane way more in some ways, and so it is a different shape. It's subtle, I guess. As we get on tour and you get to see a bigger swath of people throwing those same type of balls, that's when we really learn a lot about how they work for different styles versus just us. But these balls are really strong in the mid lane, and so you can do some things differently. The Rubicon cover's not necessarily super early, but the ball itself will hook on a lot of oil, and then it has some, it has more energy down lane than sometimes a really big cover will do.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, you in your life have used infinitely more balance holes than myself. I know that Frankie is a big balance hole guy, and he's really enjoyed using the Rubicon, especially on some of the clear patterns, cow shots and stuff. He's had quite a bit of success using that one. So I definitely think there's something to that. If you had one of your favorite balls, a phase 2 or an idle or something like that you had like a kind of a pin down, hold down layout, maybe check out a Rubicon or this Incite. I think that they might give you some of that type of. We need to screenshot that one. Give you some of that same feel. What surface did? What surface did you put on it? Well, I had the box finish on it, and then I just added extra shine to it. The Rubicon is absolute money. Yeah, and for me, my favorite of the two Rubicons is the UC2. That ball's so strong down lane. It's
friend of the show, Alan Riley. He's got a little more axis rotation, and so his speed rev rate ratio is a touch higher with speed being slightly more dominant. He really likes the Rubicon and is bombing him with them. I think myself, Stu, we like to make the ball pick up, and so balls that get there a little easier on their own. So I'm excited to be able to throw that UC2 at some point. I have holes, but we have no bowling centers. So at the moment, we're on the Northeast plan, and so I can't really throw a ball, or the California plan, one of them.
We're on the Northeast plan, but with no preparation for it.
This is just
the Northeast weather. This is just Thursday in Wisconsin or in the Northeast.
It really is not a big deal, and we are on the verge of the apocalypse here. So no gas. No groceries.
No gas, no food. People are standing in line. A guy did a video 2 days ago outside an HEB, and he drove through the parking lot. So what was he doing? 10 miles an hour. The video was almost a minute long to get to the end of the queue, the end of the line outside the store.
90 minutes at Whataburger, because Whataburger's serving, so people are waiting 90 minutes for a hamburger.
Well, one guy did come up with logic for that, though. On some of the forums, he said, if I'm going to wait for food, I'm going to wait in my car, not outside. I kind of saw his point on that one. So a couple of people have said, have asked about, will the dog bite affect your bowling? I'm hoping not, because when I grip, and I do a lot of gripping when I'm about to throw it, it doesn't hurt. It's just sore in that spot, which I guess is fortunate. It didn't really break the skin, and the dog had all its shots. So, hopefully we're all good. I've had a nurse friend look at it, and she thinks that. I think what she really wanted to say was, "You're a weed. Suck it up, buttercup," was what she really wanted to say while feeling sorry for me. I'm looking for something a little longer than a Honey Badger Extreme Solid. That's pretty much everything, I would think.
That's upper middle. And so, you have several, just in our line, the balls that are out. Obviously, the bowling we're talking about today, being the C4, will be longer. It doesn't flare quite as much. So it's also symmetrical. So from a shape standpoint, there's some things that are probably similar there that may fit into what you're looking for, depending on the surface you had on that solid. Much like that solid, the C4 will shine up, and we'll get into that here in a little bit.
I guess if you're looking for something that's going to be quite strong, a Zen would fit there.
The Zen is actually a little longer, but it'll also hook more at the same time. And so, and that's obviously the ball that most people are throwing now, that across all brands, and universally has been pretty quickly accepted as a really nice complementary piece to some of the balls that they've really liked for a long time, like the Idol in Phase 2. So
yeah, here's Kyle. We can talk about this. I'm going to assume that you're throwing 15 pounds because for the High Road Max, it would make a bit of a difference. But
also for the Honey Badger. No, I guess
okay.
not the Revival. No, not the Revival. Yeah. You're
right. It says, I don't have a lot of speed or rev rate. How would you guys recommend laying them out? Well, for me, I would consider doing a something with the Honey Badger. I would probably do. I think the Honey Badger ball is quite clean with that cover on it. So I would consider doing something, maybe a 4.5-inch pin, but with a shorter pin buffer. So maybe something like a 4.5 by 4 by 2 on the Honey Badger. Something that's going to be quite a responsive layout. I think that would complement that ball quite well.
And if you're not into all that, then what he's talking about is taking a pin and moving it up.
Yeah.
Up higher, up above the fingers. So
yeah, and with shortening the pin buffer, for using Storm's terminology, what you're going to get is you're going to get something that's more responsive off the dry. And I think that would be quite a go-to for someone who had a low rev rate and slower speed. With the High Road Max, the High Road Max is really strong cover. So I would do, with the High Road Max, I might be tempted to do a slightly weaker pin. So maybe a 5-inch pin. A 5 by something like a 5 by 4 by 3, something like that, where the pin was just above the fingers. Something that could kind of give you something fairly smooth, but like quite complementary to that Honey Badger Revival. So you maybe use the High Road Max on the first game of League, and then as that started to like struggle to get the 10 out, if it, the oil got down the lane, you could go to that Revival, and it would be a little cleaner and it would come off it a little harder. So that would be the direction that I would go with those two balls, Kyle. Let's see if we got any more questions before we quickly spin over to Chris and the C4 video.
Humor, yeah. Eddie Haskell, another good question. Have you had all your shots?
Yes. Funnily enough,
he did not have the dog put down.
No, I just
Eddie
MF the dog.
Control, it probably would not have gone well for the pup, as it was a pity. But yeah.
It's here's a question. I switched to a SPI Storm about 3 weeks ago, and so Rubicon Zen, High Road Pearl, Proton Physics, Phase 2, IQ Solid, and recently advanced. So far, I'm pretty impressed with the cores and the covers. Yeah, you got it. You got a pretty solid arsenal right there, sir.
Yeah, not a lot of balls on top of each other either. That's
no, you did a pretty good job with that. Yes. If anything, I would consider adding a UC2. I think that's one ball that has a fairly unique motion of those. And if you like the Proton Physics, I think the Reality would complement that quite well if you find yourself using the Proton Physics quite a lot. Yeah. So, and similarly, if you find yourself using the Phase 2 quite a lot, and Axiom probably wouldn't be a bad fit off it. I think that's one tip that I'd like to give a lot of people. People are very much like, you need to spread the balls out. Like, you have your 6 balls or whatever, like, and have a big spread. And I completely agree with that, unless you're not really bowling in a lot of places. If you bowl League and you bowl with a Phase 2 almost every week and you struggle at some point, just get a ball that's kind of similar to a Phase 2 and have a slightly different surface on it. Because there's no point having your arsenal and having 4 or 6 balls that you never get to use. So that would be the one thing. You're buying the bowling balls as tools, but you're also buying them to have a fun time and get to use them. So, if you only use maybe 2 balls in your arsenal, consider adding something to your arsenal that's quite similar to those 2. And then, that might get you that extra couple of hits.
Real quick, Booyah Pro to the pitch series. I don't obviously have as much experience with the pitch series, but from what I've seen, I think Booyah Pro and the fast pitch have some pretty big similarities there, and so that's probably where that fits at best. I think the Booyah Pro is more directional down lane than the pitch black and blues, but the fast pitch and the Booyah Pro are fairly in the same category.
Clint just came up with a fairly good point here. Has Stu forgot about the RST? I haven't heard it mentioned yet. You might have caught me out there. It is my boo. We've been.
It's hard to believe that we've gotten here. If we were playing a drinking game, a lot of people lost right now.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I've been away from it for 3 days. I've been displaced from my house. I've got to go in and start hugging it and like getting it near a fireplace or something to warm it up. Poor thing.
Julian, his first X1 tomorrow. If it doesn't perform well, he'll blame you. I like your chances. That ball has rolled really good for a lot of different people.
So does that mean if he bowls well, it's all my fault?
Yeah, if he
saying.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, we have got the C4. Oh. So you're bowling a house shot here, right, Chris?
This is a house shot, and this is with just a standard, about a 5-inch pin, slightly above my fingers. So nothing special, just a kind of a first ball out of the box. This is actually the first game I bowled with it. Part of our real talk reviews. Turn on the camera and bowl 10 frames and see what shows up. And so
the link will be just above Chris's head if you're watching on YouTube to the whole video with Chris doing some commentary and chatting about it. I'll apologize in advance for the mic being a little hot.
Yeah, that was on me. My first experience with the mic, and I didn't realize until after we left that I had messed it up. So that one was on me. As you can see, this ball, there's a little bit of friction in the front of this house shot at University lanes. It's pro-am lane, so generally speaking, a little tighter down lane. But this cover actually does both of these things fairly well, and this ball's come into play. One of the questions that came up was how to control compared to a Hustle PBR, which I have not drilled, but I would say it's probably pretty favorable since Frankie used that ball nonstop at the Players Championship. And I very much later in the week got around to using the C4 as kind of my go-to ball at the same tournament. I'd say there's probably some similar characteristics as far as both of them are a little bit lower flare. I think the PBR is a little higher RG, and so probably get a little bit more length from that side of it. But they're fairly clean covers. And then flare-wise, they're fairly controlled. So the biggest difference is probably RG in that respect.
Yeah,
so,
I would think that the diff, I'm just going to check real quickly if I can bring it up. But I think that the PBR is going to be in the low 30s for diff, and I think that the ordnance is the
42.
40s.
Yeah, it's low 40s. So this has become kind of my favorite drilling that I use with this, and that's where the cleaner cover. It's S70 hybrid, like Stu was talking about. It's another hybrid cover, so it does get through the front well. This is a 2-inch pin for me now because I've become a spin biscuit. My axis point is 4.5 over, 1 inch up, and so yeah, I mean, in places like the Masters, like the TOC, traditionally where you have not really a lot of volume, the surface tends to hook in the front a little bit on AMF surfaces. But you need it to pick up in the mid lane, and it's still, this cover's pretty responsive. And so this is the other one that I'm going to be in the bag, and it's got obviously polish on it, and it goes really long. And the one thing that surprised me when I shined it up is sometimes in my previous lives, when I shined up balls, they went long and quit hard. This one went longer and then got more responsive, and if you need something for hook, this ball, it took shine great and actually became more responsive versus just covering up and clogging up pores and not hooking. So a good, it will take polish really well. I think that's always a great thing to know because some balls, once you shine them up, they seem to never be quite the same if they don't respond very well with polish, and then you can't get them back the other way. The new stew scammer. I hope so.
What will this book? I mean, it always depends on what the lane conditions are like.
Yeah, we don't know. But if I was to go off when it was at Riviera, this ball would be, in the first ball, 3, 4, 5 balls that I think would be in play. I think this ball would have a very good chance. Really, a lot of what we've bowled on tour period has been balls that get through the front that still hook enough, and that's kind of where this fits. And
I was about to say, hasn't it all been about urethane balls?
Well, there will be a few of those going too.
This is a really good point from Mike. C4 looks close to Daredevil. Says yes, I completely agree. The Daredevil was HP2 ball, which is obviously a step up from the Hustles. I feel like it's that kind of step up from a PBR. I think a PBR hooks more than you expect it to, but I also feel like this C4 hooks quite a bit more than necessarily, especially out the box. Some of those come pretty strong on the surface.
Yeah, compared to say the Blue Ordnance before, I think this cover is considerably stronger, and I think it hooks more in oil than the other one does. I think the Blue Ordnance was also pretty responsive for a ball that was low RG and a solid, but this is more responsive, and I think it's a little cleaner to it. I just think it's a little stronger in the oil more than anything. Gets through the front similarly well. It just doesn't need quite as much free friction in the back of the lane that the original Ordnance did. So
there you go. New T-shirt alert. It's all about smooth balls. Lonnie's is an inside joke from a long time ago. That's one of my Phoenix OGs. If you're friends with Lonnie on Facebook, if you go and look at his Facebook update, you'll understand. Sorry. Stu made the Incite look really good. Thanks, Adam. That might be the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Okay. Use more pin up or pin down. I'll let you go first. Yeah, I think it's really based on skill set for the most part. If you can make the ball pick up, then you do drillings and balls that help cover up what you're least good at. Stu can make the ball pick up. He has great speed control. So getting the ball down the lane is really the idea with most of the bowling balls. It's just finding a ball that gets far enough down the lane on whatever he's bowling on. His hand will take over. I'm a little bit of the same thing. I can make the ball pick up quick enough. Getting it to hook down lane is more the trick. And so, but that being said, I still have a mix and a balance of both because I also like to see a smoother shape, and we'll do that. So
there is a lot of truth to that. The problem is if you have a track as high as mine, pin down balls are like a nightmare, especially now we can't have holes because if you get like slightly the wrong layout, like you can clobber the fingers. If you get the pin slightly too weak, like if I go to a 5.5 down, it'll never flare. Like just the way it is. I mean, a Rubicon might, like these new like Rubicon Incite balls, but like unless it's a monstrously massive pour, they just won't flare. I mean, even for me, Axiom, if I go like 5.5 under with Axiom, it'll go almost dead straight.
Yeah, so
because it just won't flare off it.
So say my son's, off a Stu's access point, this is way more like a leverage pin.
Yeah,
for sure would be. But and for the two-handers out there, lots of track, really close to, to this finger here, and so this is a pin down. Actually, it's more than a pin down. This is too low for, say, Ryan, my son's two-handed. His access point's 5 7/8 over, and it's just barely up. So if he drills a pin any lower than this here, basically even at there, he just clobbers the fingers and puts the bow tie there, and it just keeps going across. So a low pin for him ends up being in this range, and then the high pins move up, considerably higher. So it's all about how they are relative to each other more than anything. And so,
yeah, if we get chance and Sean's willing, we might have we might do a 10-minute YouTube video with Sean Ryan, talking about some of the crazy two-hands that he's been messing around with. I don't know whether it's proprietary knowledge or not, but yeah, they've been doing some. If you check out Jasper's Pitch Black from last week,
2 inches on the other side of the VAL.
Yeah.
And, other than a bad rack on that, I'm shocked that nobody talked about that. That rack looked miserable to me, and some of its camera angle. But man, when I look close, it looked like the 1-2 was awfully tight. And I normally don't come to any left-hander's defense, but
no, I get it. If there's going to be one left-hander's defense that me and you come to, it's going to be Jesper. You bowl with him, and he's my Weber Cup horse. Chris has never said that at the Weber Cup when Jesper's had shitty racks, so don't worry about it. It's fine. He doesn't really believe it.
The lame man overcomes the rack. Don't worry. At the Weber Cup.
Here we go. How did you two become friends? Oh, it's definitely Gary on the Storm Bowling account here. You have two completely different personalities. Let's play the friends game. See, it all started way back when. So me and Dom, Chris is our bowling hero. So I was telling Ryan this story. He didn't believe me, but it's true. So we went to the US Open. I think it was like 2008. And me and Dom were like, oh, shit, there's Chris. I said, well, let's do what we always do. Hey, Chris, you want a drink? And he looks at us, and he's really skeptical. And he kind of knows who we are, but he doesn't really know us. And he goes, do I have to buy you one back? Of course not. This was the world's most expensive drink for Chris, because then Dom did it to him about 2 or 3 times more. Over the next couple of years, till Chris decided that, no, I've given you way too much information now. It's not worth a drink to me to keep helping you. So that's kind of how it started. And then I think one of the first things we noticed was my first year on tour. Chris appreciated that I was one of the few people in the locker room who kind of understood his sense of humor. It kind of went over the head of most of his targets. So I think it really blossomed from there. From me being a fanboy, and who doesn't love a fanboy?
I didn't even know these guys liked me, so I'm not sure that's all. We were just Team Never Wrong. So, I mean, this all kind of started. I drafted both those guys on the very first league team. So I had plenty of respect for them. And so, yeah, Team Never Wrong kind of started back then, the first year of the PBA league. And now it's grown into its own show. So
yeah, there you go. That was one of my first guys in Phoenix, Lonnie.
Then he got a broader vision of everybody and came to a different conclusion. So hey! Wow, that's a guy that doesn't realize he's still on an allowance. All right, we still have one more ball, and
somebody brought up my exact point here. Anyone know that yes, read a 500 rev rate?
We talked about it. They never stopped talking about the fact, oh, Richie has such a low rev rate, and yes, for 600, and yes, for 600. 600. And he lost, but he's still 600, so he still won because he's 600. And I thought Dave Ryan was in the booth. He had his one talking point. He keep hammering that thing.
Hey, Richie's average was almost the same as his rev rate. Oh dear. Right. Okay. So with the UFO, for me, we're going to feature the UFO to really give you a rundown of a ball that kind of gets a little bit lost, I guess, in the transition of kind of COVID happening. The UFO came out at the start of last year. It's a ball that I've used quite a bit on the fresh. I've used it shiny and dull. I've used it with a few different layouts. Personally, how I like most with the UFO for going straighter is I have a pretty high pin, so it's like I think from memory, it's about a 5 3/4 inch pin, but it is a 4-inch mass bias and then only like a 1-inch buffer. So it's like the pin is way up here. And I just like it because I feel like I can keep it online and I can really tumble it. And the cover is so strong that it's going to pick up. And for me, I don't really want to have a big angle. I just want something that's going to flare and lay. So I was using this ball quite successfully until Chris came and trashed the lane at the Southwest Invitational. We were bowling on. What were we bowling on? We were bowling on something easy. It was like a 45-foot pattern. I can't remember which one it was, but it was fairly long. It was fairly easy, especially on the fresh. It was very defined what you had to do. So here's the 12th shot of the first game. So you can see why I kept that one. I think one more, why not? Now, I blame Lesko for being old and volunteering to do the video and not holding it sideways so we can have a full screen version of that. That was actually the greatest shot I've ever thrown to shoot 300, bird dog in the 710. I then started the next game with the front 10. So I had the front 22, that block with the UFO. Like I say, for me, when I want to play kind of straighter on the fresh on long patterns, it's fantastic. I can see it being really good for lower rev rate players to keep in front of them. Have something that's always going to pick up, like down and in, if that's even still a terminology. Those guys who like to, get something to pick up with like state tournament coming up, and even if you're going to nationals, having one of those balls that is going to pick up is always nice in the bag. Adam. Yeah, we spoke about it a little earlier. Like for me, I think that the proton physics, the reality, and the UFO are the big dogs. They're the drivers, so to speak. I feel like the UFO is probably the earliest of the three, but it's by far the smoothest, and it's the easiest to keep online if you want to bowl straight. I feel like the proton physics is often almost too strong to bowl like straight with. It like wants to come offline a lot quicker. And I feel like from what I've seen and how I feel about, I've thrown a couple of shots with the reality. I feel like it's a little cleaner than the proton physics and maybe just a tick less overall. I think that the proton is gigantic. But I also feel like it's it really hooks as well. Like it's strong, but you can really curve it as well. And if you've got enough speed, I feel like you can use the proton physics on a lot of things. Like I've used it at Plano where there's a lot of friction, but I was throwing it really hard. It just blended out the wet dry quite well. I know that Chris's son Ryan drilled one, and he was like, "Wow, this thing hooks no matter how hard I throw it." That's where I see it. I see the UFO as the one that I can keep kind of right in front of me. Really good on long patterns. Maybe on some of the on some of the more medium patterns where you want to use a strong ball, then maybe this isn't necessarily the one I'd go to. I'd keep it more for when you really want something that's going to pick up and you want to keep it.
How big ASIM is this UFO?
That's a good question. I've actually got the Rotogrit page up right in front of me. I can give you the exact numbers. There she is. I have to tell you that the UFO on the website is one of the few balls that I think looks better in real life. The website picture of it's quite dull. Like the colors aren't vibrant. So it's 252 054 016.
That's certainly in the giant category.
Yeah,
for sure.
And the core looks like an alien as well, so that's kind of cool. Okay, does anybody else have any more questions? So we're going to wrap the show up in the next 5 minutes. So if you have a question, fire in, let us know. For those who are looking for a fantasy update, I'm really sorry. I'll have to get it to you over the weekend because I haven't had any patch for the last 3 days. It's taken all that I could find. Like, when did you ever see me not in a Rotogrip shirt? I had to borrow a patch from Angie. I'm going to be going back to my house for the first time in 3 days, and hopefully we can get our internet up and running, and I can get with our website guys and figure out the points. But I know that there's so many different. I know that there's quite a few guys who've got multiple people left because we had like 900 entries. So, I mean, there isn't really a guy who you're like. Well, I mean, there isn't a guy who's like who's made the top 5.
Right. So there's a lot of favorites. It's a pretty strong field. And so had Jesper made it, there would have been about a third of the people still in play, I think.
Although I would say that looking at the field, this is one thing that they didn't really play up. I would say that the only person who was the favorite going into their region who made it was Frankie.
True.
Because I would have said that most people would have said Bill O'Neill was the favorite in the East, especially bowling on 4 different patterns.
Yeah.
And then in the South, I think that most people would have taken Jesper. And I think in the West, most people would have taken Belmo. And then, I mean, there's so many people would have taken EJ Tackett or Prather in that central region. Or Rash, yeah. So I don't know. I just thought that Frankie went in with the pressure of everybody thinking that he was the guy, and then he showed us he was the guy by shooting 1,000 over.
Crushed us. Simply, yes.
Yes. Brian says he's got 4 of the 5 on the show for fantasy. Well, good work, Brian. Rubicon versus RSTX1. I think that the X1's a little stronger. I think that it's I feel like the X1's in play more often. I think that the Rubicon is a little bit more nichey. But when the Rubicon's right, it's a home run. There's no getting around it. I just feel like the X1's a little more versatile and maybe a touch stronger overall. For me, the X1 is very much like an Alpha Crux for me personally. I mean, I know that some of the 15-pound guys have been saying it's like a physics, and maybe that's because they're both hybrid covers or whatever, but I never saw a physics be quite as versatile as the Alpha Crux was. And for me, Schlemmer wants me to get this out there. I've actually shot 4 300s with the X1, and I've shot one on 36, one on 39, one on 43, and one on 46 feet.
If I was a good partner there, I would have plugged that for you and not made you do it. But I'm here to tell you, he throws it all the time.
Yeah.
And he's got a ton of good balls around it, but and it just sees the shape. It sees the shape well. When you can bowl well on that many different patterns, what it means is basically it's good on a lot of different conditions, and it's good for a lot of different styles of bowlers too. So,
my wife loves it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the phase 2s and those, high roads balls that have that kind of window like that roll on a bunch of different patterns, those are the ones that sell like crazy. And that's the Zen, the X1, phase 2. I mean, those kind of balls have been good for a lot of different people. So,
okay, one last thing. Me and Chris are going to be driving on Saturday and Sunday down to Florida. Who wants to see a live from the car? We may be doing a Q&A because even me and Chris might run out of things to talk about. There's only so many things in the world that we can write.
Especially since we talk now, we talk literally every day, one way or the other, about this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Todd's asking a pretty good question here about the honey badger intensity. Have you had any chance to throw that one yet?
I have. I've got to throw it just a little bit, and much like, I guess, the C4 cover, but a more asymmetrical core. I don't have a ton of, I only got to throw it basically one day, once a month and a half ago. And then I got to throw it the other day for just a few shots. And so compared to the Revival, it's going to be stronger in the mid lane and probably be able to handle a little bit more oil overall.
Okay, it seems like we're getting a few people who want road trip, even Ryan.
Yeah.
Live from a Louisiana rest stop. We won't be stopping by the time we get to Louisiana. We'll still be go. We'll be hitting the go button. It's not warm enough in Louisiana to stop. The first time me and Chris stop, it better be 60 degrees.
Yeah. I'd prefer it to be hoodie cold, not.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for this. We're going to be doing this once a month. It's a partnership between us and Storm, Roto, and Global. So let us know. Send a message up to Storm or Roto Grip or even 900 Global if there's any products that you want to see on this product showcase with the real talk reviews. And yeah, everybody stay safe, and everybody say a little prayer that my heat and internet are working when I get home, because I don't have DirecTV anymore. So I'm going to have a very pissed off son if we don't have any way of entertaining him.
That goes from every boy between 3 and 18. So
yeah. Well, 3 and 39.
Yeah, just put a number on it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, on all seriousness, as long as the lights and the heat are working, that'll be plenty good enough. Yeah, it's been a little bit. It's been a little bit weird. When you live in a country like the States, you don't expect to be in a situation where people are, putting their gas burners on to try and stay warm. That's crazy.
Yeah, hearts bleed for those guys that have been without power and don't have other options. That's a tough. It's a tough go, and let's hope that at least in Texas, this is the last day of under freezing. Tomorrow, we go above freezing and stay there. So the process should quicken, I would think, pretty quickly as far as how much demand is on the system, and then thawing out some of those systems that have froze up. And
yeah, I just my one thing that I wish they'd do is stop the bullshit and just try and find an answer to this, rather than trying to find a way to blame each side. The politicians are coming out and they're trying to, and regardless of which side you're on, I don't care about that. This is more a case of just grandstanding and, I'll find a way to fix this. No, you won't. Actually fix it. Don't tell me you'll find a way. Just go and fix it.
Yeah.
Like, Texas shouldn't be in a situation where it's cold for a few days and there's people without power. That's insane. So,
I agree.
Anyway,
a couple real quick. HB intensity, HB clock. The intensity will be more directional off the spot. They have some similarities that way, but the intensity is going to hit around the corner more than a claw does. So
here's a good one to finish it on. I'm in Michigan. Over freezing sounds warm.
Yeah. Because at 27 yesterday, it felt like a nice break. And so I feel for my actual frozen tundra friends, this is a little brief sampling, and we shut down the entire Metroplex for it. So we've shut down the whole state for it.
Yeah.
So
yes,
you can. I'm going to go back to the last 20 years where it was never like this for more than 2 days in a row.
Yeah, we're good with it.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, well, take care, guys. We'll see you soon.
We will, and once again, support those small bowling centers and those things around you. And when you have a choice, please support the sponsors that support us: Storm, Rotogrip, 900 Global, Vice, Turbo, Coolwick, 3D Shoes, Master, Bowlersmart, and Mark Baker Bowling. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless.